Man, we're talking about schools, awards, retirement, and everything else that when it comes to talking about being a prior service dude coming back into the service coming up. Team, welcome back to the channel, man. I'm going to talk to you about some prior service stuff, and we're going to talk about some of the administrative requirements that you need to think about when you're coming over. And even if you're a current team leader, NCO, and you have somebody who's prior service, these are some things that you need to look out for to help make sure that their records are straight, because odds are their recruiter sucked. They had a bad time in MEPS, and they're just trying to get some things working out. So let's talk about the DD-214, and I'm going to be looking at mine, and we'll pull mine up for a few things that we're going to look at. And of course, the DD-214 is your discharge papers, right? And when you get it, that's like the best day in the world to get. Of course, I was in from 95 to 02, almost 03. Really, I guess I was in through 03. I was just on terminal leave. And then I had a break in service, came back in 2010. So I was a Marine for 8 years, sergeant, got out, come back in 2010, and was a specialist coming in. So I went to a warrior transition unit is what it was called then, or warrior transition course is what it was called. I don't believe that exists anymore, and I can't tell you for sure if you're going to have to go back through a basic or some form of a basic or not, but I can tell you that most dudes in the Army are kind of fifth principle kind of guys in some ways, so I'm sure that you're not going to be treated like a 16-year-old punk. But don't hold that to me. But they might be held a little bit higher standard too. So looking at a DD-214, the big thing on the top portion, right, is going to be our record of service. And this is going to say when we came in and when our separation date was, and all of our total active duty service, right? So why this is important is because when you come back in, your DM's date on your SRB, that is the date that you first came into the military, right? But when it comes to retirement, that date doesn't mean anything. What matters is your pay entry base date, and date is going to be adjusted when you go to MEPS, and it's probably going to be reviewed every time that you in process to finance at a new duty location. And this is important because this is going to tell the time of when you can get out, right? When is that 19-year mark? When is that 20-year mark? So that you know when you can drop a retirement packet. All right, so that's super duper important. Moving down straight from that is our military education, and where this is going to be important is in EMILPO, in the Army record. There are a ton of schools. Now, only one of my courses from the Army was able to get transferred over, and that was my close quarters battle course that I went through. You know, my basic security guard course, no bueno. My helicopter rope suspension training, no bueno. Let's see, we got some more training down here. Close combat instructor, close quarters battle team leader, that one went through. Coach's course did not. Sergeant's course did not, and I'll talk about that one here in a minute. And then close combat instructor course, so both CCI and CCIT didn't make it over. But that one course did. So the reason why that's important is to see which ones can go on to your record is that when you're looked at for promotion to sergeant and staff sergeant, these equal promotion points because they're military education. And if they can go on there, you want them to go on there. If they don't, that's fine. It's going to be on your DD-214, and people are going to know that you're prior service because all your awards, where's that on the DD-214? So in Block 13, we have our awards and decorations. So you can see I didn't have a whole lot because we're talking about the 90s, so we didn't give a whole lot. But all those awards will be able to go onto your SRB, whether you have a Navy Achievement Medal, Navy Commendation Medal, some sort of Air Force, or whatever it is that you have. All that can be listed on your SRB. If it's on your SRB, you can wear it on your uniform. Now, in the Army, we wear all of our ribbons except for our unit citations over our heart. All of our unit citations we wear on our left. So you're going to be stuck with, if you do have like a commendation medal that's a unit based, where do you want to put it? And I would say, to be honest with you, I would put it over my heart. But all permanent awards will go on your right side. So you're fine. Do what the Army tells you to do. Pistol badges and sharpshooter badges and things of this nature are not going to go on your SRB because it's out of record. So that should cover everything that's going to affect our retirement, right? And everything that affects our SRB as far as our schools are concerned. And because we don't have anything else here on it just yet. So when you get looked at for Sergeant First Class, like people are going to see, because of that Deems date, like for mine, my Deems date was 1995. Like, hello, that's a long sticking time ago. People are going to understand that I am prior service, right? Although panel members are not dumb. So there's one more block, right? And so on your SRB in the top, up in section 1, you have an overseas block, right? And this is where it lists all of your deployments and all of your overseas time, whether we're talking about a short tour, long tour, operational deployment, or a combat deployment. Now, on the DD-214, it's not going to list those times, dates, and locations, but it is important, if you want them reflected, that you bring, maybe it was a certificate of achievement, which we didn't talk about those, but those can also get transferred over onto your SRB and into your permanent Army file. Maybe it was listed on an award. Maybe it was listed in some other form of official military record that you had, that you can prove that this is when I left and this is when I came back and this is where I was at. If you have that, that can go on your SRB. And I was able to kind of translate my tour to Japan. That one was easy. And then my deployment with Fast Company was a little bit trickier, but we were able to get that in there as well. And there's no so what with having those on there. It's really just more of painting a picture of your total military career that you can. Because while your senior leaders are going to know that you were prior service, they're not going to have access to your DD-214 on a promotion board. So you want to try to paint as much of a picture as you can. You can write a letter to the promotion board, but I highly discourage that unless there's a significant reason as to why something is missing or why they are seeing something. Just to say, hi, I'm prior service, don't do that, bro, because they know. So time of service counts on your uniform, right, because it's going to be on your SRB. Your overseas, your combat deployment and overseas service bars can count on your right sleeve. Combat patch, right? So let's talk about shoulder sleeve insignias. So technically it doesn't cross over because you weren't assigned to an Army unit. You weren't an Army soldier assigned to an Army unit. So is anybody going to say anything if you wear a first ID patch? No, nobody's going to say anything. But I wouldn't take a DA photo with it, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? So all of your education, I read you off quite a few schools, right, that will have absolutely no bearing. What your MOS was will have absolutely no bearing on what job that you get. For the vast majority of the time that I was in the Marine Corps, my primary MOS was 8554. So I was in the Security Force Battalion serving as a fast Marine, and I assumed that coming in that I was going to have one choice, and that was to go be a door kicker again, and that was not the option. In fact, I only had one choice, and it was 25 Quebecer hit the road, and that's a multi-channel transmission system operator maintainer. Hey, watch this video. I'm like, well, dude, what the hell are we talking about? But again, so you're going to have no choice because you're coming in as needs of the Army at this point. So wherever the critical shortages are, that's where the Army is going to place you. If you're an MP, they're not going to bring you in as an MP just because you want to be an MP. Even when you get to your MOS training and you see some other dudes getting options, maybe to go to try out to go to Ranger school or something like high speed like that, like that's not for us because we're needs of the Army, which means you're probably not going to get an enlistment bonus because you're needs in the Army. And so if you want to come back in, man, this has to be something that you want to do, that even though the person sitting to your right received $30,000 enlistment bonus, same MOS came in at the exact same time, and the person on your left received $30,000 enlistment bonus, came in at the exact same time. He's just turned 18 years old, not even old enough to drink. And there you are sitting, as a 30-year-old, whatever, and you're like, damn, 30 grand on my left, 30 grand on my right. What the hell's going on? It's okay because this is what you asked for, and it's what you have to get in your mindset. So administratively, have your DD-214, and it's going to be part of your I-PERMs, and you can get your DD-214 changed after you've been out. I realized that there was an award that was out there, and I got in touch, and they sent me back a new DD-214. I haven't uploaded that, but there's that. So if there are mistakes, you can get those corrected fairly easy, and it's probably a lot easier than folks would imagine. Your medical records aren't going to just magically cross over. Your dental records aren't just going to magically cross over. So hopefully you don't have too many VA issues, but if there was some injuries, you can request to get those medical records and then have them put over into your Army file. I don't know the pros and cons for or against that, but what I'll say is be smart with your time and make sure that for the whatever remainder time that you have in, if you do have an injury, that you go in and get seen. It doesn't mean that you have to get put on a profile, but it does matter to have some form of record that your service was degraded, at least for a little bit, because when you go to get out, it could have an impact on the VA. If you don't get profiles, like it's not going to have any impact on being medically separated. But when it comes to the VA, like they're going to look for this stuff. So take care of yourself. So admin-wise, school-wise is there. Retirement-wise, we talked about that. And I think that's probably going to about cover everything that you need in MOS, and we talked about that. So after you come back in, if there's stuff that you want to do, like there are 1,000 schools that you can try to get into, and I want folks to get into schools. We're talking about hazmat schools, talking about shooting schools, technical schools. Like, if there's an additional duty, I need people who are trained in that additional duty. So I need folks to get trained up. And so there's plenty of opportunities to get into some different schools and do things basically part-time for the unit, and even potentially to do things full-time for the unit or for another organization. So I think that's going to cover it. If you got some questions, comments, concerns, experiences, man, leave them down in the comments below. That way we can continue to keep this conversation rolling. As always, I appreciate all you guys, man. You stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.